We are unspinning today's political headlines with our analyst, Mike Brown, Deputy Director of A Better Wisconsin Together, and Brian Schimming, Chair of the Republican Party of Wisconsin, in for Bill today. Now, the legislative session of the year has concluded yesterday, and I want to ask, in the case of a bill that changes the state's alcohol policies, the Senate Majority Leader bypassed a committee. This gets a little confusing. Went around his committee chair and attached a bill through the amendment process. Is this procedural drama and how quickly this bill moved through the legislature concerning to you? And I'm also curious about your thoughts on the session in general.
I mean, I think we have seen over the years that changes to liquor laws are always fraught. There are interests who feel very strongly about it. You know, in this particular case, it was really an interesting kind of alliance of groups that were for it. You had large breweries to craft breweries who were in favor of it. You had a number of right-wing think tanks that were opposed to it. You saw a split vote where members were all over the place. Democrats who you wouldn't think would vote with Republicans voting with Republicans, and vice versa. But I mean, the procedural shenanigans that went on there, I think, were extraordinary. We'll see how it falls out in the Senate caucus. I mean, the Senate Majority Leader took a bill away from a committee chair, something that doesn't happen very often and probably didn't please the committee chair. He also made a procedural move to overrule the ruling of the Senate President of his own party, and who is a fellow member of leadership. That never happens either. So, I mean, we'll see what the fallout is there. I think, you know, we have seen in Washington, D.C., certainly the infighting and extremism of the Republicans have hurt their ability to govern. We'll see if we see the same thing here.
Shenanigans in the legislature, have never heard of it. I'll say this, having done about 30 years around the building, and you're right, there was a lot of folks, on both sides of this issue. So it was a pretty interesting issue in that respect. But it's also one where there was pretty clear majorities, too. Regardless of what might have happened on some procedural votes, these were not close votes. They were pretty overwhelming votes on these bills, and now they're on the way to the governor, and I'm presuming he'll sign them.
Okay, I got to ask you about national politics, and we have less than a minute, so I want to make sure we get to this. Less than a year until the next presidential election, many polls have showed the leading candidates are viewed broadly unfavorably. Can Republicans be swayed away from Trump with polls that show other, maybe more centrist candidates with a larger margin in terms of beating Biden?
Sure. I think obviously President Trump's kind of in the catbird seat right now, but we see a couple of candidates who've come on strong, right? And particularly with Ambassador Haley. So I don't worry about that. I actually, what I'm happy about is where we are overall. And that is with the president, with 3/4 of Democrats in this state and this country saying they'd prefer another candidate besides the president and the vice president. Our problem is not a matter of Trump or Nikki Haley or whatever. Their problem is they have a president who is not well liked among their own party people. They don't want him to run again, and every poll that comes out in this state shows him upside down on most of the issues. That puts us in a very good position.
Yeah, I think there will be some new data tomorrow, too. So if that were to happen and it went to a different candidate, at what point or would Democrats kind of bounce Biden and put their support somewhere else?
I mean, I think first off, it seems very clear that the Republican Party is headed towards nominating their most unpopular candidate. I mean, in the most recent Marquette poll, Donald Trump was up 30-odd points in the Republican primary vote, and his popularity, he's underwater by 24 points with the rest of the electorate. I think, you know, we have seen, again, this example of Republicans' extremism on issues that people care about really hurt them last week when people actually went and voted. These aren't theoretical polls, these are actually votes. Democrats won the governorship in Kentucky, they won the legislature in Virginia. Ohio voters overwhelmingly said that politicians should stay out of abortion politics, and that is where the Republican Party is. Even at the local school board level, you know, strong votes for progressives and running against book bans. I think Republicans are in a lot of trouble here.
Always appreciate your insights, Mike. Thank you, and thank you, Brian, for stepping in for Bill. We always appreciate seeing you.